Wonder if we're live.
I have no idea. I'm typing on my phone. Are we live?
Look at that. It says we're live.
Oh, no.
We must be live.
Sorry, guys. You know, that's how it works, right?
Oh, okay. I've got to mute this now. Oh, so now
there we
are.
are.
See, proof, evidence.
Proof.
Evidence that we're live. Hi. So thanks for joining us today. We thought that we would, this was kind of an impromptu, let's do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have a whole lot of notes, but I had recorded a video about sovereignty, but I believe that it's one that really kind of requires a discussion to some extent. So I thought that this would probably be a more productive way to have this discussion. And I hope everyone has enjoyed the Red Letter Disciples. We're going to try to actually make another one right after this show here and go and continue in the book of John. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. There's lots of other things going on, many texts back and forth. I'm going to be talking about later, giving an update on the thumb drives and the conference and all of that. So those of you who are waiting for that, I'll talk about that at the end of the show. So newcomers don't sit and have to listen to us talking about a conference that they've never heard of.
Absolutely.
So
you started to do this video. In fact, Derek actually you said you shot this video, I think, outside, because we're always going different directions. And, we told you we're going to be releasing this video a couple of days ago. So thank you for your patience. Sometimes we have technical problems, and sometimes we just have interference with noise outside or whatever. And then Derek said, hey, why don't you come on with me? So I'm not exactly sure where we're going in this show, so I'm not very prepared. I'll be right there with you. I'll probably have questions just like you. I have some thoughts of my own about sovereignty and how it specifically applies to what we've been learning in Red Letter Disciples over the last couple of days. And we've gotten some great comments on that, because it's all about, becoming sovereign, right? Being named by the Father, being individualized out and becoming face to face. So now you're an individual. We'll be talking more about that, but you and I often talk about this as a psychological way of differentiating from other people. And we get your emails and your comments about the struggles, and we know those struggles are real, and some full-blown depression, all kinds of things, because it truly boils down to being able to keep the appropriate boundaries between you and another person, and the respect that we should have about others' boundaries, because not everyone is going to like us or appreciate us or understand us or even believe like we do. So there's a lot to be said about this, and I know that you and I have talked about it at great length. Yeah,
it's not an easy subject, because it requires so much refinement of us as individuals. And so where I learned a lot about what sovereignty is, as crazy as it is from being incarcerated, that there is an order that is far different than this outside order that you're exposed to. And so I'll talk about those things, but we want to make sure that we cover the areas, because the sovereignty element comes down to how we all feel. So first, let me just share this, because I want to share what the actual definition of sovereignty is. Let me get to this 1 second. So the definition of sovereignty, you can see: supreme power or authority, the authority of a state to govern itself or another state, but truly the basis is a self-governing state. So a self-governing state, when it says that the government will rest on his shoulders, speaking of Christ, that's the government of you. That is your kingdom. Because the reality is that first and foremost, as we go through this process, and this is a process and a journey, it's not something that, speaking some incantation solves for you right away. It just doesn't happen. It's a journey. And so along that journey, you're going to go through many things. First, you have to come to terms with what you hold against yourself, and that's now forgiving yourself, as we've spoken of, which is truly repentance. But then after that stage right there, something else is going to take place. You now have to learn what actually loving yourself looks like, because we've continually manifest loving ourselves in external ways, that we'll buy ourselves something or treat ourselves to something. And so this external of loving ourselves really becomes a false sense of love, that we have to be able to look in the mirror and love ourselves thoroughly and love who we are and this kingdom. So trying to accomplish that, whenever you don't like yourself, know that you still have work to do. And know that when you are loving yourself and you fall into a not liking yourself so much, well, now there's something new that you can wrestle with. And that will help you identify what needs to be fixed. It all comes down to loving yourself, because once you know who you are, then you can begin to love that inside you. So that's where I think that you and I have very similar thoughts about what sovereignty is. So once you obtain that element of sovereignty and loving yourself, then now you must govern yourself to not impact others that harms yourself or allow others to impact you. Again, what you said, drawing boundaries.
Right. So drawing boundaries, and we draw boundaries even within ourselves. So the first kingdom, and according to Jesus's definition of the kingdom being within us, the first kingdom to control is truly within the skin of your body, within yourself. I used to tell my girls, we would laugh about this, and I'd say, you know what? Don't try to control anybody else, because you'll be, and I'll say it, damned lucky if you can control yourself.
Control this one.
I mean, because really, how much control can we truly exert on someone else? And what we see is most of the conflict that occurs in our daily lives is the result of either someone trying to control us or our trying to control someone else. And we can always identify what that person is lacking, because usually if someone's yelling at you or trying to jump into your space about something, that's their area of weakness. And so they're able to identify, you're able to identify what they're, but we're trying to always get rid of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is. Why do you think we're always trying to get rid of our sovereignty? Because I think most people, if you hop in a cab anywhere in a big city and someone's, immigrated from another country, they just go, you know what, wherever we live, we came to America because we don't want to have to do anything. We just want to live, have our kids, grow up in peace. Why do you think we as human beings fight the idea of sovereignty and self-control? Why is that?
Because just like I said, that the government rests on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're actually responsible for governing a kingdom that is within you, you are now the kingdom. And so this gets to the point of what a self-governing state is. You are a self-governing state. So let's put that into a political perspective now for a second. That a political perspective is a self-governing state, that its government is within its own state, within its own people. So within your own feelings, within your own spirit, all of your government of love, hate, discipline, all of it rests on your shoulders. We're scared of that because of the responsibility. Many of us would like someone else to take care of us. They would like somebody else to tell us what to do. Moses had this problem. They said, hey, we've got to do this. Jesus even said that Moses created the law because of their iniquity, not because it came from the Father. That he created the law because they were asking him and begging him for rules. They would automatically sacrifice their sovereignty for that guy over there. Right. And so what we have to recognize is that, hey, I have my kingdom. Once I've polished it all up and I've gone through the process of learning to live and be at peace amongst myself, and I have my program. Okay, so it's not a program as in a computer, but it's a program. It's things that you do that feed you, things that you know that feed your soul. So just like in prison, they have everybody, because of what they have to contend with in prison, they have to design systems for themselves so they can prevent interaction with other people, right, to prevent bad things. So here's how this functions, that if you're in prison, give you an idea as to what sovereignty means there, because it will teach you a lot about what's here. You go through a door and somebody else is coming through that door, and that guy's another race. He's somebody you don't even like. You don't like what he stands for. You don't like how he acts. You don't like the drugs that he does in prison. You don't like anything about that guy. But I can promise you one thing. You say, excuse me, and you hold the door open for him if you're the first to the door, or he does that for you. That's a respect of sovereignty, right? And how you don't cause any issue. You do everything you possibly can to avoid a conflict between his kingdom and my kingdom. Right. And that means that you respect that walk, that you have your little bunk area. That's your house. There might not be a door or a wall, but I can tell you right now, there is a door, there is a wall. You better respect it. You better honor it, or you're going to find yourself full of holes plucked like a pincushion on the yard. So it teaches you something very quickly about how to respect somebody else and to have also draw those boundaries for yourself. And it becomes a cohesive living environment. Let's face it, in these institutions, the guards don't run the prisons. The prisoners run the prisons.
And the prisoners moderate it, from what I've learned from
Oh,
you.
very
the
much.
Prisoners really moderate the tenor, if you will, of
Sure.
the day. I mean, they basically run the entire prison, and they can, make or break the atmosphere and
Sure.
And being that close, I can only imagine how that is. The only thing I can relate that to is being in camp, and it's like, get out of my bubble.
It is kind of like being in camp at first, except it's far more serious.
Far more serious.
Yes,
in quarters.
In camp, your counselor isn't going to kill you if you do something wrong.
Right. These guys actually will.
Yeah, they actually will.
Maybe Survivor would be a better.
Yes, Survivor might be a better.
The only thing I can equate to it, Derek, with your experience, is the fact that I used to be a competitor, and with the NPC, which is the National Physique Committee, and it was a category bodybuilding called Figure. And I learned a lot about disciplining myself and being sovereign myself. And what you learn is there's a great gulf between knowing what the right thing to do is and actually doing it for yourself. Because the first step I found is when we know what the right thing to do is, and we see this with criticisms and contrarians that we know, even on YouTube, right? They don't know what to do. They actually do know what to do, but instead of doing it, they point out how others are not doing it. And I think that's the first step towards actually doing it yourself. And this is no disrespect for teachers, but there's that saying, those that can do, those that can't teach or project. And I would say those who can't actually project onto other people that other people should be doing it. It's kind of crazy. I've seen that. I've walked this out for the last 6 or 8 months with several individuals, and just knowing what to do is not enough. It's actually doing it for yourself, and then when you do it for yourself and you're in control of this, you don't have time to control anyone else, right?
No, you don't, and you don't have the time, but not only that, you recognize that controlling somebody else becomes an exhaustive state of being.
Yeah.
That when you want to try to rule that other person's kingdom. So now going back to the definition of sovereignty, let me just read that portion of the definition of sovereignty as it said, a state that manages itself or another state. So there is that person that's willing to sacrifice their sovereignty to allow that person to run their life. That's precisely what the people were doing before Moses, sacrificing their sovereignty to Moses. What was wrong with Moses? Why did Jesus have an issue with Moses? Because Moses did exactly that. That was the problem. He created the law, which then created the accuser, because you can't be accused unless there's a law.
Right.
This is the problem. That if you're actually governing yourself as a sovereign being, there's something else that takes place. The last thing you're going to want, is you're going to not want to have to manage that guy's kingdom or that lady's kingdom. I don't want to manage that. I don't want to tell you your rules. I don't need to be your guru. The point is you can hear that a lot, but the reality is it's quite a different story in motion, actually being put into play, is that to not be somebody's guru, I can give you great information. Melia can give you great information. But the information that we give you will never show you exactly how to run your kingdom. You can only know your own kingdom and how to run that. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. That's why I don't have a problem whether Melia has a different understanding of a scripture or of Christ in a certain attribute or something than I do. It doesn't bother me. It functions in the same way for her as it does for me. But ultimately, we arrive at the same spiritual state. It's not relevant how we're arriving there. It's relevant how we manage it between one another.
So what it sounds to me like is that people like to have this rigid set of rules, and they want the rules to apply the same across the board. But we both know and have experienced that sovereignty is relative. If you go back and read the Gospels over and over and over again, Jesus calls different people out for different reasons. We always want to apply all of those things. We used this reference yesterday, the rich young ruler. Jesus points to him and he says, that's what's keeping you from the garden or from the Father. So for you need to go sell everything you have. He's not telling everyone to do that. The problem that I see among Christian churches is that there's this formula people want to follow. Well, if I'm supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I really feel in my heart that's what I need to do, then I begin to project that onto other people. And so therefore, if they don't do those things and they're not doing those things the way the Holy Spirit or the Father or whatever you term your relationship, then that other person must not be doing it right. And so we become experts at how to control other people and show them how to go across that great divide of knowing what to do and actually doing it. We show other people the way, but we don't even walk there. The best thing you can do is walk there on your own, gain self-control, and other people will follow you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's psychologically, it's the same process that teenagers go through, and it's called differentiation. And I don't know, I can't remember the name. Somebody help me here. There's this funny comedian, and she's a hoot. And she talks about how, you know, if you did not hate your kids when they were teenagers and they didn't hate you, they would never move out of the house. It's kind of true, right? So there's a healthy component to that breaking away. And when we were talking about going through the birth canal and being rebirthed,
Mm-hmm.
that's the beginning of ruling your kingdom. The ruling of your kingdom takes a lifetime. Jesus gained control over himself, which is obviously, like we know, if from a Christian vernacular, a fruit of the Spirit. And it's probably, I think, one of the most important. I think self-control really is equated to self-love, because if you can control yourself,
Mm-hmm.
then we wouldn't be in war. We wouldn't have all of these other conditions, because we wouldn't be projecting anything that we need or want or desire onto other people or how to act. You know, you've made reference to this scripture, and I kind of wanted to show this, and I don't know if you have it pulled up, but it's the Isaiah scripture where we've talked about, and we want to go into this a little bit more at another time, but you're talking about the government resting on his shoulders, and that is Isaiah 9:6. So if you want to maybe bring that up, folks, if you're at home. But I found a really interesting word for that, because it says the government will rest on his shoulder, not shoulders, but his shoulder. And that word is Shechem. And it's a masculine noun, Shechem, and it means between the shoulder blades. It's really resting between the shoulder blades. And it also is akin to being, this is where you would yoke an animal right
Mm-hmm.
here, two animals together, because that's their, I guess, the greatest
center
strength for control,
Mm-hmm.
right, for the body. So I think that's really interesting. We'll dig more into that, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, look that up under the in the Blue Letter Bible, because it's really interesting, the phraseology there. And then it talks about the government will be on his shoulder, and his name will be called, not him, but his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father. So what I feel like that's saying to me is that once I can gain control here, and I gain that control over myself,
Mm-hmm.
not saying that I don't have a Sar Shalom or Prince of Peace, that crown of peace, but once I am able to align myself and control myself, then I'm able to be yoked with other believers in a right way, right? So maybe I'm seeing that the wrong way. I always try to look at things in a very visual, you know, I have to have a mental picture of what something looks like, and that's what I feel like it means for me anyway. And but we struggle with it. Why do we struggle with it? And tell us what healthy, you've talked about this before, what healthy sovereignty looks like in our daily lives.
Well, healthy sovereignty daily is something that is kind of what we experience, right? That that if you're living with people, if you're communicating with anyone, if you're working, you're at work, how you act and how you react to those people and your space, it's always appreciative. It's never angry, right? Somebody does invade your space. You don't snap at them. You just simply explain to them your little spot. Now, that might seem weird to them, but that's okay. But, you know, you can say, you know, I really appreciate you wanting to talk to me, but if I've got my book to my face and I know you're standing there and I don't put my book down, it means that I don't want to talk. I don't want to be rude and say, not right now. So just know that that's my language. That's how I manage my space. I'm happy to have you when I want you. You want to speak to me. You respect the fact that we'll schedule something when it's appropriate. You don't invade that space. That little tiny thing might seem small, but if you extrapolate that out through everything that you do, it becomes much bigger. Even how you speak to people, the tone at which you speak to people, that everything that goes out in this space is going to be, every action has an equal and opposing reaction.
Right.
Every action has an equal and opposing reaction. So immediately you have to know that in every single person, they're automatically going to have an opposition to what you just said, even if it was nice, but it'll be their version of it. That's why it's an equal and opposing version. So even trying to imagine how they will receive something that you say and how you can allow it to be interpreted so it's not invasive to them. All sorts of different ways to manage what sovereignty is, because what you give out is ultimately what you'll receive. The respect that you lend to others is the respect that they will lend back to you. And when they don't lend that respect back to you, that's where the boundary comes in. I'm sovereign. This is my sovereignty. I know it's no longer healthy for me to be in contact with that person. And so it's not inappropriate to say, I love you and I appreciate you, but the way that we interact, no matter how much I work it, it might be my fault. I don't know, but I'm going to work on that. But until I can figure out how to like you when you come up and talk to me, I've decided it's probably more productive for me not to talk with you. Right. So a very respectful way of saying, instead of putting the blame on them, we always want to lash out and put the blame on them because we want to ignore what is wrong with ourselves. The very first thing you should do is look at what you're doing in yourself all the time. This is a daily dying, a daily walking. Mm-hmm. And for anybody, just so you know, if anybody comes to this and they go, well, wait, I want to know how to be sovereign from the United States. If you were born here, you can't, period. You can just ask any expatriate that goes out. I was just reading an article to Melia the other day. The IRS will tax you. Even if you disavow your citizenship to the United States,
and you move to another country,
and you move to another country, you have to completely remove yourself from the United States to live in another country and grant your sovereignty to that country. There is no country in this world that accepts you as a sovereign being. Not this one, not anyone, because they are your control mechanism. Right. This is precisely what Christ was saying. Hey, your sovereignty was sold.
Well, and I think that, I always go back to scripture where we're talking about the law of Moses being written on stone. I think that obviously the idea was the Father would write the law on each heart. Jesus obviously walked this out because he tells Pontius Pilate, you don't have any control over me, when Pontius says, I have control over your life. And he says, don't you know that you have absolutely no control over me, indicating his sovereignty. And when you indicate your sovereignty, don't be surprised. People will threaten your life and try to put you to death because that is a big fear. So then that begs the question, why do you think, and you touched on it, it's obvious why governments fear sovereignty in us and individuals.
Of course.
But why do we fear sovereignty in other people? Why do we fear it?
I would say that people generally fear sovereignty in other people. My watch seemed to have an opinion.
The Dick Tracy watch is talking.
Yeah. So I think they fear sovereignty from another person because of the power of individuality that it represents. That once they feel that they can no longer influence or manipulate that person to gain something from them, they flee from it. They don't like it. It also stretches them outside the matrix system of the mind, outside the controlling system of their church, outside the controlling system of their doctrine, outside the controlling system, more importantly, and probably harder to deal with, the controlling mechanisms of our families.
Right.
That controlling mechanism is stronger than religion. It's stronger than government. It's stronger than everything, which is why it's spoken of. You do not have sovereignty in a family in the way it's structured and understood today. You do not, for the vast majority. You might be able to find some really far east family somewhere living in the mountains that actually honor that, but it's not in this system because it dictates it differently because of the entry points. And this is why I wanted to talk about and just give some people some warnings about the future of social credit scoring, because that's going to have a huge impact on everybody.
Because what it's going to do is project even further onto people, those who are intimate with you. And we hear from you every day. We've experienced it in our own families. But those who are intimate with you least like your sovereignty because they are trying to constantly put you in the box of who they think you should be, which does not allow you the space and the grace to evolve into who you are going to be, right? We are a work in progress. So we have to give each other that space and grace. Now, what happens if we go into a social media score that's going to expand that family, if you will, and with the idea that you've acted this way 29 times, so the 20 or the 30th time, if you choose to act differently, then we won't recognize that as you almost. It's like this odd way of not ever allowing anyone a way to respond differently or to be different. So comment on that.
Well, and I don't know whether you're familiar with the social credit scoring. So let me just give you a little bit of a highlight on how this is going to impact you. But I also want to talk to you about how to guard your sovereignty. And we're going to get into that because that's going to be important with the upcoming social credit scoring. So any naysayers out there that say that there aren't difficult things coming, they probably are willfully ignoring things for the sake of their own comfort of what they think the world is today. But the fact of the matter is, all of us are watching and paying attention. Anybody that is understanding is seeing these things coming. And the social credit score is critical to the next stages of this for the governing bodies. Things that the government would never, ever be able to accomplish on their own. They enlist that of the private sector or even the public sector of a public company like Google and Facebook and everybody else to build these systems, because they as a government could never authorize such an invasion of your sovereignty or person, but they can do it through these private companies, right? So they can heavy hand them. How do they accomplish this? How do they get Google to comply with the social credit score system? I don't know. Why don't they actually go after Google for antitrust probes in all 50 states? Because then you can strong arm Google into doing whatever it is that you want them to do that violates a person's own individual rights in a multitude of ways. And by the way, then people will complain to the government when that happens, and the government will say, well, hey, they're a private company. We can't violate the foundational pieces of capitalist countries. We're a capitalist country. We need to allow the private corporation to do whatever they see fit. You cannot subscribe. Well, guess what? If you don't participate in any of these social networks, you will still have a social score. In fact,
it'll be zero,
in fact, the mere fact that you don't have any social networks will mean that you have a very severely broken score and will show that you're incredibly dangerous because you don't want to get along with everybody and be a part of this social system.
With others
he doesn't
on the
play nicely with others.
We already have that, though. We have that already in our credit score, right?
Yeah.
So you get someone, because I used to sell, I used to sell stuff, and, you get somebody who comes in, you're pulling credit on somebody, and, they have this horrible credit score, and a lot of us have gone through difficulties. What the score does not tell you is the difficulty that the person has gone through. They paid their bills 16 years without any late payment, and then the dad dies, the mom doesn't have a job, they still have the bills, her dynamics have changed, and now this score is going to diminish her ability to continue on because a perception of who she is based on past behavior that she can no longer maintain. It's like this false reality. And if any of you out there have had struggles, if you've ever dealt with a credit bureau, you know what a pain in the backside it is to get something taken off of your credit report so that you are credit worthy. So this is even taking it to a much greater level.
Much greater. You won't be able to buy a gun.
Right.
You probably won't be accepted into a bank should you have a very low credit score because you're now risky. Insurance companies will charge you more if insure you at all because you have a bad social credit score. And you know what? It would be really, really bad if you went crazy one day and you drove your car through a crowd of people and we'd have to pay for that.
So
all
we're
of it.
Surcharge your policy based on your past behavior. And that sounds like, we were watching Minority Report.
So good luck if you're a viewer of this channel. Your credit score is going to go down to -15 just because you watch this channel.
We were watching Minority Report because we were thinking about that whole concept of AI. And AI does not allow you to be sovereign. So AI is basically based on, and if any of you've seen that movie Minority Report, if you recall, it's Tom Cruise is the main character, and it's basically pre-crime unit, right? So they're looking at what you might do, never giving an account for what you might do moment by moment, but it's kind of based on what they think you're going to do in the future. So that's the trouble with this, is because it's not allowing us moment by moment ability to change our behavior. And because at any time you have the choice, and I guess that's the grace, that we can change our behavior. You can stop doing one thing and decide on a moment's notice to not be that way anymore. And
well, that's a really good point. The grace is that we have the ability to actually put everything that we've done in our life behind us. And the lack of grace is how you can identify the beast system, because the beast system has no grace. So the beast system itself, although it says it's honoring you, just like you were talking about the credit score. So a lady loses her leg, as we know, loses her leg, loses her husband, loses her house, and becomes completely broken, living by herself in a convalescent home, missing a leg because of she stumbled.
Right.
That type of thing that she went through, now all of a sudden she is penalized to a great level and ostracized from a societal level because of an experience that she went through. There is zero grace with the beast system. Right. That's how you can identify it. There is grace in the Father system and how we can handle ourselves. You can have that past life and you can put that behind you.
And we're about to walk that out. We're about to begin to see the grave distance between being under law and under grace, because when grace is removed, when we no longer are able to walk in that kind of grace, we're going to really see the rigidity of what law looks like. We have not experienced that so much in the United States, but we're about to.
Yeah, it's amazing. Remember, the scripture says that the law came from Moses and truth and grace came through Christ. So there you go. The law came through Moses, which the law would be that credit scoring system that penalizes you. And grace and truth came through Christ, which is exactly what we're talking about. So, but guarding, because I wanted to talk about guarding that kingdom, and that again is those boundaries. So just in the boundaries that we spoke about earlier, making sure that through this, that you're prepared. And anybody that tells you that being in the truth, that there isn't some detrimental thing that comes to it, that there's no tribulation, they're smoking crack. I'm not kidding. They've got to be. They've got to be so loud on some system, because, I mean, it is Donald Trump right now. Anybody that thinks Donald Trump is a conservative, he's the one that's actually talking about the social credit score.
Right.
So you can't rely on anything within this world for you to maintain your sovereignty and your peace. There isn't a governmental body that's going to give that to you. There isn't a country. There isn't a representation in this physical world today that can and will represent your sovereignty in Christ. There just isn't. Stop looking for it. It doesn't exist.
It won't be promoted at the minimum. It will not be promoted. And we're seeing this with limited speech. We're seeing it with the ability, we see it in the definition of anti-Semitism. It always astonishes me that Derek and I can be called anti-Semitic, and we are both he's half Jewish, and I have a daughter who is being raised as a Jew, and I greatly honor her and her faith and her dad's family. And so it's, those things, and it's that kind of thing that you're going to be earmarked as those things, but there's never going to be any of those variant factors that people will know. They'll just see that score, and that will gravely affect how you do business day to day in this world. So start being prepared. I think that, a lot of you have sent us emails, and we try to respond to each one. We try to talk to you even by phone a lot of times. But people go, why? And I've even said this to Derek, why am I going through this? Because it feels like such a pressing, but I believe it truly is a preparation for further pressing, and we will know what this feels like and be more prepared to deal with it. Yeah, I don't really get the scoffers who scoff at the persecution or coming persecution. It's quite clear. Obviously, they've never stepped foot out of the United States, because persecution goes on all over the world with people who have limited freedoms, and we've seen it. And that's what we're trying to keep this country from doing, but I don't think that's going to be possible, because we know that it all begins with individual sovereignty. In other words, it doesn't trickle from the top down. So the government can't tell you, okay, now we need all of you to be sovereign. That's not how it works. It's sovereignty comes to the individual, and then you elect officials. If you have an official government, you don't really need a government or a king, just like Israel didn't need a king. That was never God's plan, right? If you're looking at scriptures the way I see them, but that you would rule from your own heart. And that's what I think that scripture in Isaiah 9:6 means. So you guys have given us feedback that you'd like for us to tell you what the scripture is, even if we don't show it. So take a look at that and let us know what you think. You had a couple of other ideas over here on the whiteboard. I'm looking at your whiteboard. Did you want to show some of the video of the social?
Yeah, you know what I wanted. Yeah, what I wanted to do is I'm just going to show you this. I don't want to use a bunch of his video, but many of you may have seen his channel before. And I don't, just to let you know, just because I show somebody's videos doesn't mean I agree with everything they say. And I'm certain that this guy, although he calls himself a Christian, he doesn't look at Christ in the same way that we do. But that doesn't mean that I dislike the man. But he has a video here that's, if Donald Trump considers doing this, then we're all screwed. And he's very methodical in how he goes through things. So let me share this just so you can see the channel. And it's a call for an uprising. And I'll show a little clip of it here.
We want you to be compliant to everything that the system tells you to do. This gives people a means to be compliant. You get rewarded for your good behavior. It's just like school, right?
So he's going to give you the details. I don't want to use a bunch of his video. I don't know him, and it's there without permission. So I thank him, and I'm just guiding everybody to his channel, A Call for an Uprising. And this was the video published today. So, and it is, if Donald Trump considers doing this, then we're all screwed. Now, what he's talking about and the details that he's going to give you is what to expect from this, because it's very serious. It's not a joke, and anyone that wants to tell you don't worry about this, or it's going to impact how you think and how you can discuss things. It will change the way the world operates very dramatically, because the people even that you thought were a support mechanism for you, they will no longer be a support mechanism for you because of your score and how it reflects upon their score. The mere fact that they're even your friend, they can actually receive a more detrimental score. So they'll begin to speak to people and only talk to people that all have the same thing to say.
Scores.
This is craziness. You can see how detrimental this will get. It now allows you that, oh, well, here's a handbook on how to have a great social credit score. Think this, do this, say this, don't go here, look at this site. Anybody's YouTube channel that is listed on this site, don't go there, don't watch videos, all of this. And all of this can actually happen. For those that think that this won't happen, I'd like to jar your head a little bit. This will be done through the private sector, and you can lobby your government till you're blue in the face. The government will say, well, we can only pressure them so much, but if you want us to actually do anything against them, we have to abandon the, quote, principles of being a patriotic American and about the foundation of this country, and that we're a capitalist nation and a Christian nation and all that. That's out the window. It'll be their version of Christianity, which will integrate with Islam. It'll integrate with Judaism. It'll integrate with everything, the versions they want to take place. So this is how they get people and separate the people, the delineation of the people that are willing to that are not going to question their new world order, and those that do. It's very easy to see how quickly and I mean quickly, they will be able to draw the line between what they believe is necessary for this new world government and new world religion, and where they're at and who they have to eliminate to get there.
Yeah, it'll be guilty by association.
Absolutely.
And you'll have people drawing those dividing lines, and you can see why people might turn you over, because they want to keep that score high. You know, so it's going that direction, and we're not here to, you know, it's not fear, but even Jesus said, I say these things to you so you will be prepared. So you want to be prepared in your heart and in your mind and in your alignment with the Father, and because those things are so important. And get around other people who believe and talk it out, because it's tough. I mean, this is not an easy battle. The rejection is real. It's piercing. And anyone who says they're not subject to it is not telling the truth, because I don't care how much you know it's going to come, that nail in the wrist always hurts.
Always hurts.
Always pierces.
So we have some folks, I've included the Zoom link for people to come on and ask questions. So I'm going to I've got Jana Lovelace and Philip Bernhardt. Looks like Schmucky. Not sure whether that's your real name or not, but let me go to Jana or Yana and see if we can bring Yana on. I've unmuted Yana. Let's see if she's unmuted. Hopefully we can get this to work. To say hello to some folks until these folks are coming in here.
I saw Gerald Clark in the house early on. I don't know.
Oh, you saw Gerald Clark? Hi, Gerald.
I saw Gerald, and I've seen
Bernard, Bearded Canuck, Lisa Post.
Christy Lofton, welcome. And of course, all of our wonderful moderators who are on top of things.
Yes. So
Really
Philip
good.
Bernhardt, let me see if I can bring you in, Philip. Didn't seem that the other one worked. It bounced them out. Hey, Philip, are you there? Philip, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can.
Okay. You have an echo? Do I have to turn something off?
I hear you fine. I think you're okay. People in the chat can tell us if there's an echo, but go ahead. Did you have a question?
Okay, so cool. It's quite not often that I can come to a live because I live in Switzerland and the time is quite different.
Yes,
but
well, we
I want to spell my name is for Americans impossible. It's Philip Bernhard Schmucki.
Schmucki.
Yeah.
We've got it.
Got it.
Okay. So most of the time I leave the Schmucki away and just be the Philip.
Understood.
No, actually, I don't have a question, but I'm following you since you started with your coming out of the not known as a person, and I enjoy very much all your streams and videos. I also ordered the key with the USB stick, but I'm
Very
not sure.
good. Well, I'm going to be giving an update. I'm going to be giving an update on that here right after. So good news is that you should
because I paid it through PayPal, and there should be my name and address should be on. And if you need some more money for the shipping, you just send me an email and I can transfer you some more.
Oh, okay. There won't be a need for that. We can get it to you without that. So
absolutely. And we just mailed out the last shipment of those today. So if I would give it at least 2 weeks to get to you. If you haven't gotten it, please send us an email to the email address. Which one are you using?
Yeah, so deeprose@gmail. Send us an email and just say, no USB yet. Just let me know because obviously I'm sending them through the United States the private business of the United States Postal Service. Which it has shareholders.
Until which date you will have the videos copied?
There's 200 videos on there. So as we go, we'll probably issue some new ones or larger ones for those that don't know how to download and add them to it.
So cool. I adore it that you do that. It's great.
All right.
It's really great because sometimes we'll have at least interruptions on the internet, on the system, because they can do everything. They can do everything. You know?
Oh yeah.
Experienced that yesterday, Philip, on our red.
It's so crazy how the situation in Switzerland, you cannot understand. It's so different than in America. Everybody is sleeping, and they sleep so deep because everything here, all the money, all the wealth, all the functioning government, I mean, on the surface functioning, but beneath you have all the small heads and all the banks and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I tell you a joke, it's okay? Just a short one. You know the short heads? The people that have short round heads? No. The short round heads. The J.
Okay. I have a short round head.
Okay. You know why their heads are so small?
I don't.
Yeah, because they even want to save money on the head.
Now that's a little comic relief.
They got it free, the pieces, from the big seweries, and they got the what they cut off and didn't need. They got that. And then they try to make as big as possible on this small piece, out of this small piece.
Well, yeah, that's funny. So thank you for the comic relief. We appreciate that. You definitely live in a location where the Bank of International Settlements is, which is essentially the king of all reserve in national banks like the Federal Reserve that we have. So I think you'll probably experience a bit of refugees of the wealthy coming to your location at a time near you. So expect that. Look for caves in your mountains out there in Switzerland somewhere.
Yeah, I'm quite prepared, especially spiritually. because anyway, on the money side, I am disabled person because I had a very bad accident 20 years ago. I cannot work anymore. And I get as that from the government like $2,500 a month to like a pension.
Mhm.
Right.
But my flat only is nearly a third of that,
Mhm.
and the rest is for me. But I'm going along. It's okay.
All right.
I was
Well,
rich once, and not more happy.
exactly.
We're so happy to hear from you and to know that that
Yeah,
these
greetings.
words mean a lot to you and they keep you uplifted. And we'll be praying for you for sure. And is there a way that you can get together with other believers in your area or no?
It's impossible. I don't know anybody personally that is on that level, that connects that all dots that I do. I mean, I studied things since 30 years. I'm like nearly 50. And yeah, I'm always a teacher. Like if I can talk to somebody, and I never talk to somebody if they not ask me something.
Well, see,
It's
you
so
had to reach out.
important
You
not
had to reach out through YouTube. This is perfect.
Yeah, but you know, my I I'm more like a passerby.
I understand that.
And watch the things that go on and comment, and maybe it's all set up. If it's needed, I can put on a channel, a video in seconds, uh, like the NASA can go back to the moon as fast as the astronaut says. So we can go to the moon in a nanosecond, but we've lost all the technology.
Philip, you're getting a lot
Okay,
of
I leave you.
you're
I
getting
give
a
some
lot of
space for
wonderful feedback on from the in the chat room from people who think you have a wonderful heart. So we encourage you to join the Discord channel so that you can engage in Discord with other followers of this ministry,
Mhm.
and gain another group of friends where you can talk 24 hours a day if you want.
It
Yeah.
would be nice to meet somebody in Switzerland, actually, to meet somebody personal, because I
sure.
don't like so much uh, to talk and interact with people over the internet and over typing messages, because there is so much misunderstanding involved, and it's so difficult sometimes, and so much drama sometimes from people only about a word and something.
Of course.
So
Well, they
I
do
like
have
to
in Discord, just sorry, Philip, in Discord, they do have audio channels where you can have audible discussions. It's a great place. You go in there and you can have discussions. In fact, everybody can jump in there. And Philip, if you go to the description box and you click on the link for Discord, that will bring you into that Discord room. And then you can have somebody, some of the moderators that are in there, if they would start up and be in one of the audio channels, so you could see that, and anybody else could jump in and see what it's like for fellowship inside there. That it works really, really well.
And DeForest Skywalker just shared that on the chat room live, that link for Discord, and it's an invitation to you. So click on that link.
All right, and
Okay.
maybe I'll be able to pop in there and say hello and have a discussion with the rest of you.
Yeah, but it's not going to be today because it's quite late here and I have to go to bed soon. It's like 2 o'clock in the night.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, get some sleep. We appreciate you
So
coming
I'll
on.
check it out in the next days.
Thank you very much. I
you
appreciate you coming on.
with the-
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I just saw Patricia came into the house here. So Patricia or Patty, I know you as Patty. So hi, I saw you come in.
Very good to see the folks. So Gary Rosenquist, Christy Lofton, Vince, Son of God, Cosmic Lightning, Holy Rebellion of the Wise.
I believe. We love you, I believe. There's Patty Rainey.
Obi-Wan, Lou Mikado.
Hi, Lou.
So quick update on the conference, everyone. The conference itself, we're trying to find the right dates and we're trying to find the right venue, and we've gone through some iterations here, but I think we've locked on a venue. It'll be a short shuttle ride from the airport to the venue. It looks like we may actually have some access to horses or something, but beautiful locations. We're trying to lock down the dates, so I'm trying to get those done. Melia and I also have to take a flight or a trip to Florida. Well, we will be in Florida and we'll be doing some videos from there. The portion of this month, we've got work to do, because the one thing about this is that in order for us to do this, we want to be able to come to you every single day. We've got to do work, because we can't sit here and, ask for people to keep us alive and feed us all day.
Right.
So unfortunately, that does take away from our time that we can dedicate to here, but it's something that we have to do. So we go back there, we're going to get some work done, and then we'll come back and have more going. I am speaking to different speakers about speaking at the conference. So I'm hoping to have some great people. Some of them you've already seen here on this channel before, but some really good. I'm orchestrating the subject matter of what we're discussing, very, very specific as to what I've seen all of you ask consistently over the past year within emails and in within the videos in the chat.
We haven't forgotten about the video that we're going to be working on. We've put that on the back burner, which will be a synopsis interview where I am interviewing Derek about common questions that churchy people have. Yeah. That's an easy way to put it. Because, we do get a lot of, kickback and blowback. I did have.
Mike M says that I'm a lucky bugger because you're cute.
She's cute. Oh, thank you, Mike. Speaking of cute, how many of you saw the video that I posted on my Instagram or YouTube channel of Derek? Just give us a shout out. Come on. I know you did.
No. If you saw it, I was just having fun and being silly.
We've gotten some comments. I think, Patty, some other people have asked you to stand up, and if you could
No, I'm not doing it. I'll tell you, I'm not doing it. Stop teasing me. No, I won't. I refuse.
We occasionally like to show you that we do have a sense of humor, and Derek's actually really, really, really funny, and he's a great dancer and a great singer. You just haven't seen it all yet. So we try to keep, with things is, with this subject matter at hand that can be so pressing, and we think about the daily, daily just gets so daily, and it seems like such a struggle sometimes. It's nice to have a group of folks who have great senses of humor like you all do, to be able to share those things, because I really don't have a guard up with regard to that kind of thing. So I'm glad that Derek let me share it. It took about a week or so for him to let me share it.
Yes.
So thank you for letting us be who we are. And we always love your comments. We've gotten some wonderful comments. Stick around. We're going to be doing a Red Letter Disciples. We'll probably tape that, release it later tonight or tomorrow morning. So at least by the time you get up in the morning, you'll have another Red Letter Disciples. We'll be working on chapter 2 of the book of John.
Tracy says I really looked hot in the video.
It's because he was wearing my dress, Tracy.
I was wearing Melia's dress. I actually
had a tag on it.
It was actually a kind of a nightgown, but I was trying to get her to try it on, and since she was refusing to try it on, I tried it on and modeled it. It's nothing. I don't have any. If you wear dresses at home, I'm sorry, because it was quite uncomfortable.
Oh, somebody commented that they got the Passion translation of the scripture. Good. You can't have too many translations. I think it's good to compare translations. I like it. I think it's lyrical. I like the way it's written, especially when you get to the Psalms and Proverbs. It's really nice. So, all right. Any other questions? Do we have anybody else?
James, let me see. James says that you want to talk, so I'll unmute you and bring you in.
Can you hear us, James?
It'll take him a minute. Lou Mercado says, Derek, you are truly in touch with your feminine.
Yes, he is.
That's how you know that somebody's pretty confident in themselves, that they don't really have any issue. I don't care what anybody really thinks of me. I have fun and I enjoy myself. We enjoy it. We laugh a lot.
Jim and KJ, I got and I think it came from Jim. So we are one for love from Jim and KJ. So I got your audio message today, and Derek and I laughed handsomely. It was funny. Thank you for having a sense of humor.
And I'm trying to unmute James here. James, if you can unmute your mic, it shows that, now it looks like you can probably talk. Are you there, James? Still can't hear you. So we'll give him I'll leave that open, see if that changes.
Teo Mendoza, Melia, tell Derek to answer me, LOL. I don't know. Say it again. Type it in all caps. What was the question?
Type the question in all caps. We'll get to that. James, it shows that you're unmuted, and you probably don't have a mic. It says your mic is unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
Anyone else have a question about sovereignty? You can type it in all caps. We'll be happy to answer that to the best of our ability. Just know that it is psychologically, just like it's psychologically important to go through differentiation, it is truly spiritually that important. You must go through it. You must go through it to progress to the next level of maturity that the Father wants you in. So the pressing, the sovereignty. Oh, he's going to show the video.
I'm not.
You are not. Yes, you are.
I'm not going to show the video. No, no. I don't want to show the video.
Yes. Okay, so he's going to share the video.
No, I'm not going to share the video.
Are.
No.
Come on. I need him to hear my voice.
Mateo Mendoza. Did you email me, Mateo?
Yes.
So email me, dbros@gmail, and let me know what you want to talk about, what you need to speak about, and we'll go from there. How about that?
Yeah, somebody asked when we're going to be in Florida. We'll be there the first 2 weeks of October. If you're close to the Panhandle, hit us up. We'd love to meet. We love to meet with our subscribers. We love to talk. We talk to many of you by phone at length. That's why we're here, and we'd love to see you if you're close.
So I'm trying to find a better.
There it is.
Let me see. It's in here somewhere.
That doesn't show your face. Okay, so show this one.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you want to end? Yes. So please.
So do you guys all want to see this?
Yes.
Some drives. Yes, Patricia. Some drives went out.
Yeah. Last batch went out today. So give us a week or 2 weeks. If you haven't gotten it, please send us an email and let us know. For
sure. Somebody said, does birth certificate or social security number cancel sovereignty? No, it really doesn't. When you're born in this country, the way that the laws are set up is that you are a sovereign, apparently a sovereign citizen. However, you voluntarily give up your sovereignty to be run by the corporation that is the United States of America, all caps, the corporation, the company that runs the country.
Eyes open in California. Check your email. I'm a persistent pain. I know. It's my #1 trait. No, you're not. I see your comments. We love your comments, and you're not a pain. It's just we've been likely busy, so we're not ignoring you. We'll take a look at that. And
yes, and Tracy and Bernice she said, I would like to mention the importance of allowing our children to exercise their sovereignty muscles. Yes, you can't.
So Tracy, that is a great point, because I would like to say this for moms and dads. If you have raised your children well, you've raised them to differentiate from you as an adult, and you've raised them to have their own sovereignty and to be able to draw their own boundaries. That's healthy. Sometimes as parents, our children draw boundaries around us and their relationship with us. I've had this happen in my family, and guess what? I've told Derek this, you have to honor it, because I honor anyone who has, if they say to me, I cannot communicate with you because I feel like we are on 2 separate playing fields, that deserves my honor and respect. That's called respecting someone else's sovereignty. It's probably the single strongest, best thing you can teach your children is how to be sovereign and manage their inner kingdom, learn how to manage their own anger without projecting, and all of those things. Those are grown-up things to do, right? That's called being a grown-up. We certainly draw parameters around toxic behavior and even perceived toxic behavior, right? Because if we remember, it's not always about us. If someone else's issue with us is not always about us, 99.9% of the time, the issue is lying within them. We have to give them the space and grace to back away from us so that they can resolve their issues. Now, there are many times we do have shared responsibility, or we have wronged someone. There's truth to that. There's great truth to that. But thank you for mentioning that, Tracy. I think that you are a wonderful mom. I've seen you in action, and that is a very good point. Anyone else have anything to kick in on that, Derek?
Not on that, but I want to get to another question here. It says, Derek, do you think that the social credit score has to do with the decades of Trump dynasty comment? Yes, there is no question that Trump is thinking very much a Trump dynasty. The powers that be around him are thinking dynasty, where they will usher in Trump and Jared Kushner and even Ivanka. And, you know, there are many people that believe that the last Trump would be Ivanka, and the last Trump being Ivanka as presented, which becomes the crowned person on behalf of the Zionist folks to run things. Now, that would make a lot more sense that you would have a female doing it. It would be the first time in the history of the world of really a power structure. So you're talking about a complete upheaval of everything that governmental bodies have done through this dynasty. So yes, you can expect that, and that social credit score would certainly help. I mean, look, you're talking about Donald Trump, who, I don't care what you think of him, you do have to recognize that anyone that feels the need to respond to any petty judgment or petty anything, anybody that says, I don't like his hair, all of a sudden the president of the United States is going to spend time actually tweeting and refuting this guy's comment about the hair. So there's a tremendous amount of vanity involved here. And anybody that knows or even been around Trump will know the difference and spend some time. I spend entirely too much time around Hollywood and Trump and other people just like him. I can tell you right now that it's not an unusual trait.
Here's one. How might one respond to an I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
How might one respond to an accusation of ruining my energy in sovereignty? That's a good question.
Perfect. So the mere fact that anybody could accuse you of ruining their energy means that they don't understand sovereignty in the first place. Because me as a sovereign person, if Melia, even though I love her and we're with each other all day, if Melia is bothering my energy, well, then I've got to deal with that. I'm not going to put that on her. I'm going to take my silly little butt outside and sit by myself and figure out why it is that I'm being bothered by that, considering that, I can either accept what she's doing or I can just allow her to go through it. Why does it actually have to have an impact on me? Why do I have to react to it? I don't.
Right.
If I don't have to react to it unless it's a discussion or something, and then it's kind of where I can be helpful. Would you like me? Would you like my kingdom here to help out your kingdom? Sure. Now there's a cooperative measure. Now there's a discussion. But if somebody has a problem with you, well, it's their responsibility because it's their problem with you, not your problem with them. So they can take their kingdom and go someplace else, and they won't have you to worry about anymore. This is a very simple thing. You don't get to parlay all of your irritated feelings on somebody else and say, they're bothering my energy.
Right.
That's nonsense. You better learn how to deal with it, because if you're going to be worried about what other people's energy are around you and they're impacting you, and you're going to chastise every single one of those people, we'll get to the top of the mountain and point your finger at every single person on earth.
Right.
Because you're never, ever going to be happy in that situation. And that's not peace. That's not the easy yoke.
And the real question is, and this is what I feel, if Derek says something to me and it's piercing to me and I don't say anything, I can act that out in two ways. I can distance myself from him and give him the silent treatment, which a lot of people do, right? Mm-hmm. Not really good for a relationship, but people do that, and then they let resentments build up. Or they sit down with it and are comfortable enough. And this is where someone's spiritually a little more mature, they're used to doing the inner work, and they sit down and they say, why did that pierce me? So in other words, asking yourself the important questions. Why would it bother me that he felt X, Y, Z, or whatever it was that he might say that was something that I perceived? So again, it's giving someone the space and the grace to process. Now, I will back up and say, ladies, if Derek walked out and said, I'm just going to go sit out here, that's about the time I would hit the lock button on the door and wave to him through the glass. No, I'm kidding. We do have a sense of humor.
We do. So DeForest Skywalker said, so is energy vamping a concern? Well, it's a concern if you allow it. And that's just like anything else. If somebody else's energy, if I don't like them, if they're trying to suck off of my energy, believe me, there's a reason, depending on what you're supposed to be doing, what we do. If you think for 1 second that this isn't an energy suck, right? We put energy into here and it comes out there, but this is what we do. So this is a giving of energy. Now you on your end can either receive the energy or you can discount the energy.
Right.
It's up to you. This is yours. There is nobody responsible for you except you. If their energy has impacted you or they've sucked off of you and taken it for granted, well, that's also your problem. Because if somebody is taking something from you, you draw the boundary and go, I can't give anymore. I need to go refill myself. Christ split and left everybody for that very reason, because he came in, served, gave, fed. He needs to go recoup. So if that's your job, then the last thing you should be doing is complaining about people sucking energy off of you, because you control when and how that happens.
But that's absolutely true. It's that deposit withdrawal thing that we talk about. What about provocation? Like when someone's in your space and they're provoking you, What's your take on that?
When somebody's in my space and they're provoking me,
Yeah.
I can respond out of ego. I can respond out of vanity. I can respond out of lots of areas of me. The way I prefer to respond is depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances. Sometimes their provocation for me, because of what I do, their provocation to me is an invitation for me to have a conversation with them. Right. And get a rebuttal. I don't mind a debate or a frustrated person.
So we shouldn't be afraid of that. Confrontation.
Should not be afraid of that confrontation, but it must be respectful. If they're baiting you into a conversation, well, then have the conversation, but also be prepared that my armor is on. I'm ready for this conversation. Nothing this person can say will impact me personally. I'm not going to take anything he says personally, because I understand that he's going to be going through a whole bunch of different feelings about the things that I say. He's going to have cognitive dissonance. He's going to be pissed. He's going to be angry. You've seen and watched in certain circumstances in different situations about me having a conversation with somebody and how it works. It can be very loving. It can be very, very, very hard. And sometimes those challenges are intended. In fact, many times the cry of the person in the conversation, they can't come up and go, I really want to talk to you. I need some advice. They'll actually come and attack you first, because then their ego is intact. That's all they've got left. Right. They don't actually have any heart. They've only got ego. And the way that ego approaches that conversation is, let me tell you how wrong you are, dude. And then you proceed on tearing them into little pieces and shreds and laying them on the ground. And then once you've done that, you can put them back together and explain to them who they are and what just took place. It's not an easy road. It's not for everybody, but I can promise you that for somebody that is willing to engage in that conversation, if you're not the right person for those types of conversations, do not engage in them.
Best to just be quiet.
Best to be quiet
and to realize it's about them. Because if someone approaches you in volatility, provocation, obviously it happened to Jesus a lot of times, he would always respond with a question, which would ultimately guide back to their intention. So see, that's what it's all about. It's really about the motive of the heart. Remember, we talked about in Red Letter Disciples about Nathaniel. If you'll go back and read in the latter part of chapter 1 in Nathaniel, when he says, here is a true son of Israel. Who is a true son of Israel? He has no hidden motive. What I have found when people are trying to get into my space, or they're trying to project into my kingdom, right? The piercing, darts, the fiery darts into the kingdom. It's rarely about me. It's always about them. And like you said, their ego is intact as long as they can come out as the aggressor. And so then you have to look at them, and sometimes you say, I wonder why you feel that way. I wonder why this is affecting you this way. And sometimes a very gentle answer does turn away that wrath, and it causes a mature person or someone who's just acting out of ego to go, oh, wow, now that you put it that way, maybe let me go sit with this and see what this is about and what's bothering me. And hopefully you can have good conversation. It doesn't mean you won't ever have disagreements with people. We'll have them. But the idea that we have that respect for someone else's space, grace, and outer bubble, if you will, their kingdom, right? What do they say? It's about, 6 inches? Correct me, Tracy.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, is it the 6 inches beyond your nose is your bubble? Don't get in my bubble.
So some people are saying that the audio is going up and down. I can promise you, but I can promise you that it's not us. That's not a typical thing with this setup that we have right here. And there is no volume control. So it's nothing on my end. That is only going to be on the Zoom end or the YouTube end. We've already seen that in other videos that we've uploaded, that even when I look at them, just to help you understand, I look at them, there's no fluctuation in the audio that I can see that's so dramatic that you would hear it, but somehow it keeps coming out there. So I don't know really what's going on. It might be the mic. I'll check that out.
Do you know, Rosen Mangan, it's all about putting up our boundaries. I've allowed a lot of energy vampires to feed off my energy. So have I. Given them too much space in my mind. I have had to learn to go within and try to understand how I was triggered by another action. That's exactly what it is. It's why am I allowing this to trigger me? And I wonder what's going on with them. Even somebody we see as evil. Why do I see them as evil? Are they really evil, or is something that they're doing just ticking off some flesh part of me that still hasn't died yet? I mean, those are all questions that you really have to ask yourself. So very, very well said. Thank you so much for that.
Yet another question, I can't find it, but Robert, I remember the first name, had asked why I am against Trump. Well, that's, again, That's a projection because I've never said I'm against Trump or any man. I don't like the function and what government has become. So even if Trump thought he was doing good, just like many pastors and many churches think they're doing good still, but yet they're still espousing this doctrine that was taught to them by a church and an organization and country and everybody else over the course of 2,000 years now, to alter those things for a control mechanism over people. They're not willfully and willingly doing it. They don't see the end result. They're not being strategic. They think they're doing good. As far as Trump goes, it's about a person. It's not about a policy or anything. There isn't a policy within this country that any party is going to execute upon that is going to change anything. Republicans and Democrats have become the same party. They pretend to dislike each other. If anybody that's spent any time in DC knows the ruse. Right. The reality is they are all working on the same thing. It's the same plan. The reality is that we have a much larger political party in the world. Make no mistake about it. It's a political party. So see how these things operate. You have Republicans and you have Democrats. You have libertarians. You have all of these little other fringe political parties. The reality is the only two that matter are Republican and Democrat because they're both essentially the same parties. If you listen to progressives, you'll hear a very anti-war and almost quite an awake attitude by the people that speak of progressivism. They just haven't quite understood the religious element or the faith element just yet, even though they oppose most of the religions in the world. So with that said, the overarching political party that has intervened into the Republican Party, that has intervened into the Democratic Party, that has intervened even to libertarianism, that has intervened into even religions, Christianity, all forms of it, Mormonism, all forms of it, all people within it. They have infiltrated Judaism. They've infiltrated Islam. It is a political party that has spanned the world. That political party is called Zionism. Right. That is the political party that has infiltrated. It's not about a Jewish people. Right. It is about a very specific group of people that are utilizing that as a front, right, a cover, because you can't point at them and throw darts at them because of their religious values. The reality is that that is a theocracy. It is a one world system. It is coming to play, and Trump is simply a pawn. He's a trumpet on behalf of those people. There is no way. He's not powerful enough. He doesn't have enough money. Trust me, he doesn't have enough money to buy the ones that run the show. The ones that run the show pay him all the money he has, and he works for them.
Like you said, reiterating that again, it is a political platform that that is being utilized by the wealthiest and the most elite to rule everyone, and the changes will be wide and brushed with a broad stroke. So Gary Rosenquist, I love this question because I think we answer this in a certain way every single show, but I'm glad you asked this. Why is it that 99.9% think that Christ is a man and not a consciousness? It's so frustrating. Well, that's true because people in general like the external rule over them. Go get in a cab and ask any cab driver, why'd you move to America? And they'll say, well, we just want to have babies and live in it. We don't want to have any, we want somebody else to make all the rules, and we'll just abide by those rules. We don't want to do anything else, because people in general terms are kind of lazy. And, anyone who doesn't want to do this inner work will be ruled from the outside. There's only two ways to go with it. It's not that that's not a good thing. It's just that's not how we were designed to live.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier when we were talking that when I was talking about self-love, that in order for us to love ourselves, we always go for the immediate or the visual, the physical, that we'll buy ourselves something or treat ourselves to a vacation or a new car or something, always to demonstrate that we love ourselves. So in the same way that people immediately want to make Christ physical so they can manifest it and say, I can see this guy. He looks just like this. This is what he did. They're missing the entire point.
Right. Another comment. I'm sorry, I'm jumping. Steph 888. Transcend dualism. My peace will then be given unto you. The peace of this world, not the peace of this world, but my peace. Yes, that is correct. That's what it means. You've got the peace. He is the czar of shalom, the peace. He wants you to have that peace. And then we also learned today about the Shechem, which is the government resting between the shoulders.
Right there.
So right there. It's right there. And so,
Or
yeah.
the heart.
Yeah, take a look at that. I think, I love to hear all of your ideas, because there's no one way to look at these scriptures, right? People have been interpreting these things for a long, long, long time, and it's how they relate to us on our own individual journey. So,
hi, Tracy McCormick. Hi, back to you.
Hi. Hello. Oh, I didn't see
Mark
that.
Manny here.
Ah, there we go.
Wisdom's wild card. Hugs.
Hi.
Hugs back.
Who's the Antichrist? Antichrist is anything that's not Christ. Pretty easy. If it's not of Christ, it's Antichrist. Jesus said, you're either for me or against me. That's it.
You either gather or you scatter.
You gather or you scatter. What is Jeff Doherty's issue with you?
I could care less. Again, sovereignty. I could care less what his issue with is.
Yeah.
He's not willing to have that conversation. I'm not willing to have that conversation.
And I want to comment on that, just because, and if you'll allow me to.
Sure.
Only from where I sit, because none of this has been geared toward me that I know. And I always say hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not in the business of hurting or tearing down. I always use the analogy, and Shannon and I were talking about this. We got to meet with Shannon, I believe, just a few days ago over breakfast, and we were talking about how hurt people, and it's certainly easy to take a bulldozer and tear a house down.
Mm-hmm.
You can run right over it and tear it down. It takes a long time to really build something. So I think our focus, I know Derek's has been, and I know this is from me too, is not in tearing something down. It's easy for me to be a naysayer and tear someone down. It's a totally different gig to build something. So what we're trying to do is really build. So we're not going to focus on people who want to whistle blow or tear down. There's a role for that, and we're grateful for Jeff. So there's no hate here at all. We actually embrace him. We feel like he's in the spiritual crisis himself. We all are, to a certain degree. And we hold out all hope that he can be reconciled within himself. And that's truly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So, and we're very transparent. We're not going to get locked down into any kind of arguments online. We won't be provoked that way, because we respect him and give him the space and grace to talk all he wants to talk, because it's not about us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we recognize that all of that, when you project that much external to yourself, it's about you, not the person you're projecting onto. And
it's difficult to talk about. It's when someone talks about sovereignty, and somebody asks a question, what does somebody have against you? Well, that person apparently understands what sovereignty is. They talk about that. Sovereignty is not having anything against anyone.
That's right.
I mean, I don't care what his kingdom is. I don't care what anybody's kingdom is. What your kingdom is your kingdom.
That's right.
I'm not here to tear your kingdom down. But sadly, some people believe once they get into this, it's like you've seen it through attacks over the 2 years of this channel, is that people have tried to build channels on the backs of tearing other channels down. And just like when Melia just said, you cannot build something up based on tearing something down. It doesn't function that way. Tearing things down is really easy. So anytime that there is hate or disdain or anything like that, you have to recognize that the very values and the very understanding of sovereignty doesn't even call for that, which is why I don't call anybody a name. I feel bad because I don't understand. I wouldn't even call him a name because, I wouldn't call him a name because I don't know why he's where he's at. So I would be judging without understanding. And so I tend to let people like that just be on their own. Again, my kingdom is my kingdom. That's all I'm concerned about. What that kingdom is, I really don't care.
And stay focused on yourself. That's the thing. You'll be darned, I didn't curse again, darned lucky if you can control yourself. Remember that. That's a mama's wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
You'll never control anybody else, and you'll be doggone lucky. That's an Alabama phrase, by the way. To control yourself. That's why he loves me, because I'm from Alabama and have these Southernese phrases. You'll be darn lucky to control yourself. So focus on you, and don't put the focus out there on anyone else, especially when it comes to anything negative, and work on yourself and build people up around you. That's what we're here to do. And that's all we'll say about it. And we won't be provoked into arguments. So thank you for asking that question. I'm glad we were able to clarify that.
Yeah. And it's important to, to understand that how you're really going to know. I don't have an interest in gaining subscribers for the sake of gaining subscribers, because the physical world to me doesn't appeal to who I am. It doesn't make me more special because I have 5 million viewers. That's irrelevant. With my background, where I come from, I've already accomplished everything I set out to accomplish in life. I've done it all. And ultimately, that is fulfilling and feeding what I do today because of the experience and understanding that I have within those industries and the level and the depth that I worked within them. So I don't have.
There's Stella.
Yeah, Stella's barking at it looks like a pool guy or something here, so we apologize for that. But we were just wrapping up anyway.
I'm waving to the people who are taking care of the yard here. And by the way, we have this lovely couple. They don't wish to be named. Many of you have commented on our various backgrounds, the yard. We have been most graciously given for the summer and into the fall, the home that we're staying in. And we want to not name them, but tell you again how much we truly appreciate you're allowing us to use your beautiful home and allowing us really to teach from this platform. It's been wonderful. And just know that we love you and we're eternally grateful for this time that we've had, because we've, when I came to meet with Derek here, we'd known each other, but we didn't really know each other. So there's been this time that it's taken us really to forge our relationship. And we know you've walked through that with us, and we appreciate that too. So I just now feel like we're, kind of good.
Yeah.
I don't mean good. You know what I'm talking about.
So really quick, Tracy McCormick said, how do you claim your sovereign when your husband is not awake?
Is no awake. That's a good one. That's a tough one.
Well, your husband's sovereignty doesn't have anything to do with yours.
Right.
Just like Melia's sovereignty doesn't have anything to do with mine. I want her to have a really, really, really strong kingdom. And I don't want to infringe on that kingdom in any way whatsoever, because I don't want to influence it, because what I love about her and what she brings to the table is the fact that she has a kingdom that she brings to the table. And I love the fact that it's there. Like if you have a person that has specific skills and specific things, and you want to honor those skills, I don't want to teach him my skills so I can screw them up. I want their skills. I want your skills. I want how you see things. So that's how you're sovereign with somebody else. Respect his not being awake.
Yeah.
And don't be upset with it. You are.
Yeah.
You're awake. You're paying attention to these things. When he's ready to have that conversation, he will. If he's not, depending on how he impedes you or influences, or, well, now when you begin to protect, as I was talking about protecting that kingdom, well, then you begin taking steps back. That's why people find themselves that they find themselves in situations in the world where they can't live in the same function in the same way while following their path of Christ, while they're following. Well, that's why you were prepared to give that up. That's why he said, need to be prepared to give that stuff up, because this walk that you have, understanding who you are, learning to love yourself, getting rid of the debts that you've so falsely placed on yourself and the debts that the world has so falsely placed upon you. Getting rid of those things is not an easy process, but it is a critical process. It's far more important than anything else.
Right. And not demeaning the other party. It's difficult in a very intimate relationship with a spouse or a child. But again, it is all about the space and grace. If you can remember those two words. My uncle used to tell me this about raising my two girls as teenagers. I said, Uncle Johnny, because he was a pastor, and he is a pastor, and I greatly respect him. And I'd say, how do I do it? He goes, just treat them like they have a bad headache. And if you can just look at people and go, I bet you're doing the best you can with what you have, right? If we could just give everyone the same grace that we want to receive when we're also in those positions, I think is probably the best rule of thumb. I know that sounds pretty simplistic, and it doesn't address, someone who might lash out against you, because that can happen sometimes. That's happened to me personally, where people, when you don't respond, they lash out physically. If that's the case, by all means, you seek shelter and move away. I don't think you're talking about that, but, live at peace with all men when it's possible.
For sure. So hopefully we were able to cover some areas about sovereignty in this for you, and understand that even one explanation of what we've spoken of sovereignty, if you apply that explanation to multiple different situations, you're going to quite easily find what's required in order to make yourself understand how sovereignty applies to that situation. It's a real practice. because
Yeah.
you've been taught to invade and to be invaded. You've been taught to be controlled and to control. So it's difficult to unlearn those mechanisms when they are the very foundation of what you were taught and raised as, so you would comply with society. And compliance with society today is a very dangerous thing. It's becoming more dangerous. And that's the problem. When you first learned it, it wasn't such a dangerous proposition to comply with society, because society was fairly understanding of these types of things and people were at ease and there wasn't so much distress and disease. But today it is compounded, it is devastating. So pay attention to that. So we wanted to wrap this up and tell you all that we love you and appreciate you. And again, we thank you all, everybody that supports us right now. That's never been more important.
Dr. Mike, thanks for all your comments. I've been watching those. Thank you so much. Die to yourself every day. Absolutely. It's a slow death.
We appreciate all of you, and we will see you next time. And for those of you that are watching the videos on the Red Letter Disciples channel, we appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching those and supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed, just search Red Letter Disciples. Will be the first thing you see. We love you very much. We'll see you soon.